Well, today at the Ravenshead u3a Antiques Group, I'd like to talk a little bit about my auction experiences, both in person and also online. Back in 2018, my wife and I decided that we'd been following things on the TV, the various Antiques road shows and Flog It and Antiques road trips, etc., and decided that we'd actually like to go and see what an auction was like. And as I come into a little bit of money from my pension pot as I retired, I thought, well, okay, let's put a little bit of money in there and see if we can go and find some things that we like. So over a period in October 2018, we visited a number of auctions, Golding Young in Lincoln, Gildings in Market Harborough, Golding Young's in Grantham, and then online at unique auctions as well as offline, and also at Golding Young in Lincoln in not only the end of October, but in the 18th of November 2020 during lockdown. When we were on our little trip in October 2018, we went to Gildings at Market Harborough and bumped into a certain gentleman called Charlie Ross at the door as we were going in and had a brief chat with him. And inside, they were filming an episode of Antiques Road Trip, episode 5 in series 18, where they were both selling items that had accumulated during their various visits to antique places at retail establishments. And they didn't do too great, but it was interesting watching the whole filming process and the antics in front of the camera. And some people obviously were going up and asking questions and generally treating them like the celebrities they are. So they're real people and they're very nice too. And we had a great time with them. So I want to talk about the Hibbert Bowl. Tony Hibbert is somebody who was a war hero and had a distinguished military career in World War II. As a parachute commando, he saw action at Dunkirk, North Africa, Italy. He was part of the Arnhem landings and the famous bridge, and also later in North Germany. Whilst at Arnhem, he got captured. He was obviously holding out when the reinforcements didn't arrive, and he was received a military cross for basically his subsequent escape after capture by the Nazis. He escaped from his SS captors and then, whilst working with the local groups, managed to find a group of British soldiers and led 138 of them back across the Rhine from the German positions to the Allied positions, and he was awarded a military cross for that particular action. Later, he was one of about 600, he led a group of about 600 commandos who basically made secure the town of Kiel on the coast of Germany, up there on the North Sea coast. And it was important because the Russians were advancing rapidly across with an objective to take Kiel and extend the Russian dominance of northern Germany at that point. There were 10,000 Germans, soldiers in Kiel, and 638, I think it was, of those in his command managed to hold on to and establish, let's say, control of Kiel and prevent the Russians from taking Kiel, for which in, I think it was about 2008, he was awarded a special honor by the city of Kiel. And as he said at the time, he was one of the very few people who was honored both by his own government, but also by the German people as well. So both sides had honored him by giving them a special commemorative medal. When I got to know Tony, he was sailing a class of sailing boat that I also sailed. He was also in his 60s by that point, and I was a teenager. And I used to, on a number of occasions, race the boats against him. He was very instrumental in my development in terms of sailing. I had one of his old boats to sail in my younger years, and he was somebody who believed in young people. He was awarded an MBE for services to both sailing and tourism. Tony founded a famous children's sailing club in Lymington called Saltern Sailing Club, which has fostered some of our world champions sailors over the decades. He not only bought the water but donated it for perpetuity for young people, and I believe it is under 18s. They not only sail there, but they actually run the club, and the parents only have overall governance to help them. So a very unique thing that he did for the children. That was one of his services, sailing, as well as other things I won't go into. He also retired after that, and whilst in his very late 70s, 80s and 90s, he tackled a project to basically restore a famous set of gardens from total dereliction at u3a Gardens, which is somewhere down on the Helford Peninsula in Cornwall. And it's now a visitor attraction. He set it up as a trust, passed the control of it to a trust. So when he died, this continues, and it now attracts over 100,000 visitors in Cornwall every single year. So Tony was someone we wanted to honour for his contribution to sailing and the class that I was involved with, the International Moth Class Low Riders. So we've been looking around for a silver bowl to have as a trophy for the national champion at our various sailing events. And whilst I was going online, I spotted this particular silver bowl on a base. It's a much smaller version and less ornate one than the bowl that is the class races for its world championships, called the Carling Trophy. But we thought to have something for Tony in recognition of his services to us, we would name it after him. So I was looking for a bowl, and this one came up at Unique Auctions in Lincoln. It was a silver bowl, and on the auction listing, it was between 70 and 90 pounds was the estimated price. So I registered for the auction, and there it was. It was I had some close-up photographs of it. It's antique in that sort of sense, and certainly 90 years old or so. And so I registered through the online bidding site called the Sale Room, and obviously I set a little bit over what the guide price was, because we clearly wanted a bowl. It wasn't just for sentimental reasons. And this is the screenshot of the auction being about to start, and there was a bid already received for £40. Well, the bidding got underway, and the current bidding at that point, we ended up being a current bidder, and eventually we bought this for £100 hammer price. And what I'd like to explain to you is, obviously you buy something for the hammer price, but there's also surcharges to pay on top. And in this case, the surcharge was 21%, so 121 for the price of the actual item, plus the internet surcharge on top for the online bidding. So what did we do after that? Well, it wasn't possible whilst I was researching this to formally identify what the actual piece of silver was. So once I was able to get really close up and get a decent photograph and inspect the markings through the historic hallmarks on the silver, I was able to establish firstly that it was from Sheffield. It was dated 1931, and it was by a company called Lee and Wigfall, originally Henry Wigfall in the early days. And you can see there that the marking corresponds with the catalogue of the hallmarks. So that was how we identified what the silver bowl was. We took it to a hand engraver in his 80s who lived in Nottingham, and he was closing his business. He was finally retiring, and he was willing to actually do a hand engravement of the actual bowl for the Hibbert Bowl trophy, with the actual details of what it was standing for, the UK national champion for the class of sailing dinghy. It was probably the last piece of hand engraving he did before he retired. So what's this got to do with what we're doing? Well, that was the championship trophy being presented to the first winner, Ian Marshall. And that shows the type of boat we both sail down in the bottom left-hand corner. So that was a little bit about the story of the Hibbert Bowl and my auction experiences. I hope that was useful to you all. And thank you for listening.